What are you guys doing? And why would you do that over there in that part of the world? So I thought, you know what, let's clear the air. Let's have a conversation about what's really happening in Ukraine. Let's talk about what's happening there that the media is not portraying. Let's talk about what the real needs are. What's up, everybody? Kris Krohn here, Have It All podcast. And today is going to be a little bit of a different conversation. I don't have Carson here. I'm actually sitting here with Lease, that is the director of the Krohn Breakthrough Foundation. Lease, thank you for being here today, brother.
Hey, thank you, my friend.
And I also have Glenn that also joined us. She's the co-founder of the Krohn Breakthrough Foundation and also joined us the other week in Ukraine, which is something we're really going to be talking about today. Because I have a ton of people that are asking questions, that are confused. They're like, first of all, why are you going to Ukraine? Don't you know they're dropping missiles there? And why would you put your life at risk? Because I think when people think of Ukraine, they're just thinking a war-torn country. And frankly, there's definitely some there's some admiration, there's excitement, but there's also a lot of, what are you guys doing? And why would you do that over there in that part of the world? So I thought, you know what, let's clear the air. Let's have a conversation about what's really happening in Ukraine. Let's talk about what's happening there that the media is not portraying. Let's talk about what the real needs are. And let's share some of our work that we're doing, because that was our second mission. And Luis, you're the one that came to direct my foundation. You brought Ukraine to our attention, and we've now been there twice.
Yeah, Kris, I mean, I think when I first started, this happened. And you had told me, I want the foundation to have a direct impact in helping, solve the world's biggest problems. And we are now in the largest humanitarian crisis since World War II. And when I brought it to a board meeting, it was my first one, and I said, Kris, I have a network that's in Ukraine from my military experience. We could leverage that. We could do it safely. I'd like to go lead a team there. And, with your blessing, we raised funds with it. And Kris, you were 100% decisive where you leaned forward. I remember you said, brother, I'm going with you. We will take the jet. We will load it up with precious, vital cargo, and we will make the biggest direct impact that we can. And now we're just coming off of phase 2, bigger and better than even the first mission.
Yeah, Clint, do you remember that board meeting and sitting there and having that conversation?
Yeah, it was definitely nerve-wracking, kind of scary, because we had really no idea what was going on over there. And that first mission was definitely changing for all of us here at the Breakthrough Foundation.
Yeah, what was it like for you to actually be at home knowing that I was there in Ukraine? Like, what was going through your head?
I was excited for you guys to kind of get a lay of the land and what's really going on, what we could actually do to help. Definitely a little nervous, but you guys kept in really good contact. And after seeing what an amazing impact we were able to have, I really, really thought and prayed about it, and I wanted to go on the next one. So I feel really blessed to have gotten to go with you.
Yeah, I think every foundation has to make a really important critical decision, which is, what are we about? Like, who are we going to serve? And for us, I think we have a really, really tight niche. Everything that we do stems from taking our breakthrough technology that provides so much healing to people that are in emotional crisis. They're suffering from their own limiting beliefs. They can't see it. Their blinders are up, and they need help getting out of that. And that's that change life component that we love so much, but that we've paired that up with saving lives. Luis, how specifically are we targeting the lives that we're trying to save there in Ukraine, in the war zone?
Yeah, 100%. So we have 2 objectives: change and save lives. And then we do change lives through humanitarian effort, aid drops, the breakthrough aspect of it. And then the save lives component is through extraction missions. And so when all 3 of us got together and we said, how will we have the most direct impact and honor our donor's intent to its maximum capabilities, is to not rely on government, not rely on elected officials or big NGOs to really be our partners. We wanted to go where we would cut out the middleman, and we would go from direct to donor to the end user, bringing the supplies, and then deliver them ourselves. And so, go ahead.
I think that was actually, for me, something that was disheartening and startling when we went into Ukraine was, first of all, we had to smuggle in some of our supplies because without smuggling and bribes, basically the supplies just get handed over. They don't get to the people that need them. And I remember when we went into the Mozart groups, where they were doing that Red Cross training, I'm like, there's millions of dollars of supplies just sitting around here. Yeah. Why isn't this being distributed? And they were just sharing that this is the problem that NGOs have, especially because a lot of them, they want to give, but they don't know how to get it to the people in need, especially in a war operation, as Putin's calling it. And so that's a really tough thing, is how do you actually make sure that the donor is honored by getting the supplies directly to the people that need it? And we got to see that. And I got to tell you, it has me right now just alive and in love with impact, with giving. And Glenn, for you, you got a chance to go to some of the orphanages, the handicap school. You got a chance to directly pass out the food and aid to people. There's people that are starving right now in that country. Yeah. What was that like for you?
It was amazing. I mentioned this to you before, but I think there's a mentality here at home or elsewhere in the world where we think, I'm just one person. Could I actually make a difference? Or what kind of difference could just one person have? Well, I've really come to believe that one person can make a huge difference. One little group can make a huge difference, because I saw it. I saw it with my own two eyes. Because we were able to raise this money from our amazing donors and go ourselves, we could see these people in person and we could pass out supplies personally. And it was beautiful and it was heart-wrenching to be able to see them and to hug them and to tell them that we care, and to see the pain on their faces as they've been displaced, and these children that are no longer in their homes and they don't really know where they are. And yeah, it was very hard.
Yeah, you actually shared with me, people in the Eastern Bloc, I lived for 2 years in Eastern Germany. That was like 20 years ago, and a lot's changed, but people typically in that part of the world, they're like tough crusted bread. It's hard and crunchy on the outside, but on the inside it's really soft, and sometimes it's hard to work your way into the hearts of these people. You were telling me about this one elderly woman as you were passing out food that came up to you, hugged you, and just wouldn't let go of you.
Yeah.
What was that?
We had gone to a produce market and picked up fresh fruits and vegetables and took them to a temporary housing area for displaced people who'd come out of the war zone. And these sweet families just waited and waited patiently as things got unpacked from the truck, as we put them in bags, and then as we patiently handed them out to each family. And the last two women, one was a middle-aged woman who had older kids, and she took the bag, but then her elderly mother, she was probably in her mid-70s, came up to me, and she was just sobbing. And she looked like one of those babushkas that would be just hard-faced and tough and didn't want to show emotion, but she just clung to me and cried and told me thank you over and over, as if it was a life or death scenario. And I wondered how much food that they'd had that week. I don't think it was very much.
Well, this is something I think a lot of people don't understand. Even in America right now, 60% of people are living check to check. And I promise you, on that side of the world, it is a lot worse. So imagine being displaced, kicked out of your house, and all of a sudden you have nothing. Yeah. So something as simple as procuring food becomes real. You're now relying on NGOs, you're relying on charity, you're relying on, you can't even rely on friends and family. They're displaced too. Yeah. And I think that's the really tough spot. In our separate mission that Luis and I were on, we saw some very hungry people that evening after that extraction. And I was watching them squirrel the food away in their bags and in their pockets as if they didn't know when their next meal was coming. And it was heartbreaking and it was heartwarming all at the same time, because for them, this was the start of a very chaotic journey of having been, leaving their homes and now needing to find a way to start life all over again. And how was all that going to happen?
This drop was special because it was fresh produce. It wasn't canned goods. It wasn't flour and sugar and stuff like that. It was potatoes and onions and beets and carrots, and then we had fruit, and it was the American staples. It was apples, oranges, pears, bananas, plums. And I kept thinking, my kids have these on the kitchen counter every day, or at least a couple times a week. And I wondered how special that particular food drop was, because I don't know how long it was since they had fresh fruit. That's hard to come by for a lot of people.
It reminds me of my Oma, that has since passed on. But because I lived in Germany for 2 years, I was able to finally master the German language. And when I came home, I was really the only member of her posterity that she could speak in her native tongue. She couldn't speak English hardly at all. And when she spoke German to me to tell me the truth of what happened really during that Second World War, she laid it full on, and she told me, that day that the Russian army came in, they destroyed the entire town. 600,000 people were massacred that weekend. This is near the end of the war. She had, hid my father and her sister, just babies, in, the basement of a barn. And then went out with her father, watched him executed as Russians on horseback too, came out, shot him in the head, shot her in the neck and shoulder, raped her. She survived, miraculously, but had a baby the following year that died of starvation. And when she escaped, because she was actually taken to concentration camp, which made no sense to me, and I asked her repeatedly in German, "You're not Jewish, are you serious?" And she was drug off to concentration camp, escaped, went back, reunited. They didn't have cell phones back then, the little black box in your phone that talks to satellites. And, they didn't even have MapQuest, and that was substandard. She found and was reunited with her children, my father, my aunt. And there were strangers that helped her and my father as a refugee come to safety. And I think a big part of why Ukraine is because I feel the spirit of my grandmother saying, be that stranger for the refugees now. And we've now been able, Luis, you and I, to share 2 missions of doing that. But this mission was different because we went all the way to the front, and we got to do the critical humanitarian aid drops that no one else was willing to do. And then we had an extraction that afternoon. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, your story, and if anyone ever asks your why, I mean, it hits so close to home for you. To be that stranger. And so what we saw, we went on an extraction mission. We partner with Andy Milbourne and the Mozart Group, and they're the best in the business for getting this done, where we go into Donetsk Oblast region in the eastern Ukraine. This is very much even what Putin would call Russia right now.
Yes.
And we were doing HA drops into makeshift schools and churches that were these last refugee sanctuary for anybody in that town that was left. They could just go get food and then go back into their cellars and try to hide out. While we were there,
brother, it was like a ghost town. I mean, when we came in, first of all, the caravan was driving like as fast as humanly possible. Yeah. I mean, we had a MiG fly directly overhead. We saw ordnances dropped, missiles, plumes. We heard rockets. And to be amidst that artillery, just for going in, that food that we did in those 2 drops, best as I could tell, more than doubled the food supply of all that was left that day.
It was 2 tons of food in these Sprinter vans that had been gutted, filled to the brim with these packages for a family to sustain a family of 3 to 5 for about a week. And while we were there, one of the vehicles, that shrapnel in their tires, blew 2 tires out.
Yeah.
And during that time, while we were targets in this, you don't want to be out in the open. Which
you were in that vehicle, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
Because when we had driven to safety, I'm like, "Where's Luis?"
We were like, "Let's keep pushing the Alpha team that we were at," and that's when we had artillery going off. It was pretty intense, very surreal, and the mission came at that point where through their network, it's a network, community network. This is what I love too over there. This isn't again. I say it's not government because it's bottom-up solutions where neighbors and local leaders are saying, "Hey, I have a family," and we had 6 couples in Bakhmut in a village just outside of Bakhmut that said they've been getting shelled today very hard. They're in their cellars. They're ready. They didn't leave initially. They wanted to hold tight, and they've said, I value my life more than my home. Can you get us out? And that's where we reunited us and the team, and we said, how are we going to conduct this mission? And a select member of our team went. And in artillery fire, where I think, Kris, it was in the footage that we have, even just from being in the area, for me, I look back and I say, man, I cannot believe you would hear the whiz crack of the artillery happen right over the hill with trench warfare. And it wasn't, it was calculated, mitigated risk that said, we have 12 lives here. We could abandon them and not do it, or we can be frontline volunteers, execute this mission, and come back home safely. And we did, and we got them all out.
I'll tell you, it was really powerful for me that day to feel like nothing I'd ever done in my life actually mattered. I wasn't an influencer, hadn't transacted a couple $1 billion in real estate, didn't own all these companies, wasn't this, stage presenter, breakthrough artist. I was just a guy with 2 legs and 2 arms that was willing to do what our partners were doing every day. I mean, I feel like that day I met real heroes. Steve, the team leader of that mission, and the 9 other countries represented by the Mozart Group, ex-special forces that come together knowing they have these skills, and instead of picking up a gun, they put the gun down and say, we're gonna go and save lives. And we got to be on that mission, and for me, when I got to run, I was in the van on the last 2 runs, and to sit next to Steve as he drove like a bat out of hell up that mountain, over that ridge, into that neighborhood. And we met up with one of our correspondents and, said it was 3 houses back. There's this couple, they're old, they're slow. And so I'm booking it while he's turning the car around, grabbing their stuff. Everything that they own is basically in just 2 bags. And I'm racing them to the vehicle to throw their stuff in, throw them in, race around the corner, pick up another person. And when we drove down the hill and finished putting those 12 people packed like sardines in that van, I'll never forget the look in their eyes. Terror, fear, gratitude, and just thinking, wow, their life is completely ruined. Like everything that they know is over. Everything starts fresh. Everything gets a brand new beginning. No one knows how this conflict ends. I think for me, I was just looking at our group having the privilege of riding alongside the people that do that every day, thinking, wow, there really are real heroes, and this is 100% what they look like.
And we were talking about it with Andy and the Mozart Group, and they said, hey, this is an average day. For us, it was a transformative moment. And I just got to say, there's a civilian collection point where the extraction vehicle, one vehicle that can do off-road terrain, goes in, gets them out, and then brings them to the civilian collection point to load them in, and that's where we're at. And I turn around, and I just see Kris jump in, and I jump in the extraction vehicle, and it just peels out, and it goes. And when it goes, and Kalin, I'm sorry if
just go for it.
Yeah,
Tell me.
Just spoiler alert here, but there was probably the biggest and most close indirect fire that happened, and it hit like right where, for our perspective, right into the village. And Andy Melbourne, very cool, calm, collect, ex-Special Forces operator, was like, Luis, get comms with the codename Jeep call sign, which was Kris. And there was silence for a minute. And man, my heart sunk for like the longest 30 seconds, and I tried again. And then finally, you get a call back. That was one big indirect fire artillery round. There was more happening, and I got a call back from Steve, and he's like, stay alive. We'll be right there. And then I see, wham, just coming over, and Kris is holding on for dear life, and there's 6 people in the back.
When there should only be 3.
Yeah, only 3. They're like lapping it, and I can't explain how grateful I am for that group, for us, and for your viewers too, Kris. Is we do not just go in there once and we get out and we say thank you, appreciate it. We are supporting our teams, our networks, long term.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be there for a week. We got to see what's happening with our donations, the direct impact, but the reality is the work goes on every single day. It doesn't stop. And collectively, it's feeding hundreds of thousands of people. Collectively, it is bringing the injured and the dying that need surgeries that are languishing in Ukrainian hospitals, and it is bringing them over the border into Poland where they can finally get the life-saving treatment that they need. It's pulling people out of their war-torn villages and giving them another chance at life. And for anyone that's listening, the need is real. We have raised so far $5 million for the year, and that money will literally save countless lives. But when I see how few people are there because of the lack of media coverage or whatever, we are not leaving until that conflict is over. And because every life is precious. And the reality is, I've been telling people this for years because I get to do the breakthrough work on stage and at my events. And I just tell people, everyone's stuck in all their own crap. And I just have to remind them, the worth of your soul is priceless to God. And there's a reason why we don't have slavery. We shouldn't have it in the world. And it's because, literally, my son who's autistic and someone else who's literally off the charts, brilliant with an incredible IQ, every life carries the same precious value. And that day in that vehicle, I knew that my life was no less, no more precious than the person that we were pulling out, no matter their age or where we were bringing them to safety. And so this is, these people need help. And we're going to keep doing it and help any of you that are watching and are connected to the Krohn Breakthrough Foundation, that you'll be generous and that your hearts will be open. And I'll make a promise to you that any donation that you make, anything that you give, we will guarantee firsthand that its impact will be direct, that it will be meaningful, and that it will change and save lives.
Kris, when Bravo Team kept getting little bits of information on how Alpha Team was doing out there, we got detail by detail, little bits at a time, and it was a little bit before we realized just how serious it was and how close you were to compromising situations. And I kept having this temptation to be upset, to be scared, to be mad about why you would go there, why would you put yourselves and our teams in danger, and what that would do to me if you were hurt. But I couldn't be. I couldn't be because you got those people out, and their lives are not any more important than yours. And I just had a feeling that you would be protected, and our whole team would be.
Well, the truth is we did risk mitigation, and we were with, honestly, I think, overqualified people involved in the mission, and we've got amazing partners, and we're there for a brief moment. They're there every day. They're continuing the work. They're risking their necks. They're risking their families. They're risking everything. I'm proud to be associated with them. And, on my way out, my CEO was very, very disturbed. Carson called me and said, "Kris, why are you doing this, man?"
I think he was more upset than I was.
seriously, why are you doing this? I said, "Brother, I hope and I think that your life is easily going to be as privileged as mine in terms of results." And I said, "Carson, when you've self-actualized in your health and in your marriage, in your family, in your business, what's next? What's your higher mission? What's your calling? Who are you meant to serve?" And at some point, honestly, it becomes a transgression to ignore the people that you're called to. It's one thing to commit a sin or commit a crime, but it's another thing to omit one. And we needed to be there that day, and we needed to do what we were doing because we felt called to, and we knew that we needed to. And we're going to stay there, and we're going to keep doing the work because it is the right thing to do. And these people need this love, they need this support, and they need the life-saving aid, and we're going to keep bringing it. Luis, for you, as you've had a week now to process all of the events of your second mission, and knowing that, we are planning on Saturday to release and make the biggest announcement of a new organization, a new mastermind called The Mission. And I'll tell everyone briefly what that is, and then I want to get kind of your final thoughts on where you're at, where your heart's at, and where you think our future lies, because you are the director of this foundation, and Clint and I are on board at your side, serving with you, alongside you. You've amassed a great team of people, and you have some just super worthy initiatives that we're so thrilled about. On Saturday, we're releasing a brand new mastermind. It's called The Mission, and it's for people that donate $100,000 to $1 million to go on these missions with us. They get to choose their level of participation, but it's where we're combining the mentorship that I provide that people pay 6 figures for. People pay $500,000 to get mentorship with me. So we're combining all that mentorship with these missions. We're performing 2 life-saving missions a year, a training mission every single year, called Breakthrough Boot Camp. And it's designed to level up people's lives and at the same time be in the environment where you get to serve people in the most meaningful of ways. And 100% of, all of my efforts in that mastermind are just donated to the Breakthrough Foundation. And so it's a big move what's happening on Saturday, because we're committing now for years to come, Glenn, 2 missions a year plus training every year. And it's to call the individuals out there that have had some level of financial success that feel stuck. And they're looking for their next. And they don't feel like joining a mastermind where the goal is to, hey, these guys rented out a stadium and they hired this rapper and this famous celebrity to do a keynote. Yep. As wonderful as that is, the mission is definitely for those that are looking for the most surreal, meaningful level up in their life, because I found mine. And now I want to pass that on. Which means that next year we're going to raise $20 million for this mastermind. Every penny of it goes towards the foundation. It's a big move. Yeah. And Carson's like, are you sure you want to do that, Kris? You're passing up a lot of cheddar and just giving it. And I'm like, Carson, I am bringing you on the next mission so that you can experience why we're doing this. And brother, we'll keep you safe. But that's what's on my heart. And that's what came from that experience was, in the next 5 years, we're going to donate $250 million to helping end child sex slavery, to rescuing people, to remembering the forgotten, to bringing the love and the care and the necessary and life-saving aid to the people that need it, bring 1 million breakthroughs to the world. Like, we've got huge plans. Tell me what your plans are. What's your next, Luis?
Thank you, Kris. I'm humbled and lucky to be where I'm at, because in the 7 years of nonprofit leadership I've never seen a dynamic where the founder is willing to lead from the front, roll up. You have 2 amazing people here, 2 founders who had a vision for a better world, and they created the foundation to execute that vision. And then on top of that, they said, I'm not only going to give to the foundation and my wealth, I'm going to ask my friends to leverage and network, and we'll fundraise, and then I'm going to go, and I had you leading Bravo Team Cullen in the most beautiful way on the humanitarian side of things, and I had Kris leading Alpha Team in the a bit more high risk but high reward impact of extractions. And for me, I couldn't ask for a better leadership in an organization that what we're about to do with the mastermind. Like, I'm new to the influencer space, but I'll tell you what I know is people have these masterminds, and it should be, hey, join the select group, pay a decent amount of money, and I will in turn maybe investments and partnerships and coaching. But you're saying all the money, like you said, 6 figures and up, I'm not going to touch it. It's going to go to a great cause that I believe in, to the foundation. And I was like, so surprised. Honest, not in that you brought it the way you did, but I was like, everyone's going to pay into this mastermind to change and save lives, to have coaching in your proximity, ecosystem mergers that always happen, that I see happen on these missions, and life-changing breakthroughs. But it's almost like you don't have your own benefit, at least financially, because you're not touching a penny of it. It's all going to go into our efforts and missions. And to me, I just couldn't be more proud. I couldn't be more humbled to be able to privilege to lead this new organization and the mission. I've never heard of anything like this before in my life.
Well, brother, we're going to do it together, and it's because it's needed. And for everyone that's listening, I think there's I think a lot of people would agree, leave religion aside, I think a lot of people would agree that the purpose of life is to grow. And there's a lot of people that get stuck because they stop asking questions, and they stop being curious, and they stop having goals and dreams, and they just start riding the waves, whichever way they flow. But for me, like, the purpose of life is to never get stuck. It's never get comfortable, and it's to always find out what the next is. I personally believe there is a God, and that God put me on this planet to grow, and I believe that about all of his children. And so just do the math. You're a financial idiot or you're financially intelligent. If you're an idiot, then your growth plan is to learn how to be intelligent. If you're financially intelligent, then you can learn how to take care of your family. So then you learn how to take care of your family. Do you retire toes up on the beach, or do you say, now I'm going to go ahead and expand my wealth to take care of other people? So you do that, you create some generational wealth. Well, if you're young enough and you have opportunity enough, what do you do next? And I want to inspire a generation of people that learn and put themselves on a path to becoming a billionaire or multi-billionaire, which to many seems like a really ridiculous number. But the reality is, whether a person makes it to million or 10 million or 100 million, as long as you have time and as long as you have gas in the tank, why not keep going? And I'm going to keep pushing the blueprint of how a person achieves maximum financial success. And at some point, you got to do what Tony Robbins says. The purpose of life is about your contribution. Right? The selfish life for us is, I got to take care of me. And then we become a little bit more selfless when we want to take care of our family, and a little more selfless when we want to take care of the next generation and give a hoot about them. But at some point, if you've got time and you've got opportunity, why more? Well, everyone literally could go toes up on the beach and live a really simple life. But if you can do more, learn more, master more, create more, build more. But to what end? There's only one: solving the world's problems. That is an opportunity at every person's legacy. That's certainly yours as you think about your little daughter, and you always tell me how much you want her to be proud of you when she gets older, to see what did dad do when the Ukrainian conflict come about. And you are creating a beautiful legacy. Glenn, you are a part of an incredible legacy. And I think my hope for anyone listening today is that you decide to get serious about the game of building wealth, because learning how to multiply your talents and resources means that if you'll commit yourself to the game of contribution beyond your own needs, you can create a life of meaningful fulfillment that you can't in any other way.
Kris, you said you want to spend the first half of your life becoming a billionaire so that you could spend the second half of your life spending it in causes, back into value add to the world. And that's probably could be just a poster for some people from is Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie inspired, for sure. My number's a little different than his.
But on that note, you've said this too, for anyone also listening, is on your path and on your journey to become who you want to be, if you don't give now, if you don't give a little, or you will not give when you are a billionaire. And for you, you're doing it right. You've been doing it. You're doing it right now. You're putting your money where your mouth is in regards to being a servant leader and adding value to the world through the foundation. And you and Kalin, I can only imagine what's to come in the future with the mastermind, because it's going to be game changing. And
it's going to solve world problems. That's 100% for sure. Kalin, what's your final?
It'll be exciting. I don't know what we're going to do, but it's going to be exciting. And I remember a few years ago, we took our kids to Africa, to Kenya, and our little guy was only 5, and our daughter was 6, and our other son was 8, and our other daughter was 10. And I said, yes, I want them to see. I want them to open their eyes to what's out there and the people that are really, really in need. And we had some of the most magical times and amazing experiences connecting with those people and serving them and loving them. And I'm hoping that even though it's been a while and maybe their memories will fade a little, they'll remember the joy of helping other people. And that's what I'm excited about, is for a mastermind where lots of people can join in spreading love and help to people that need it. And what could be more fulfilling?
Yeah. KrohnBreakthrough.org, is that the website?
Yeah, you could put support KrohnBreakthrough.org. And that will take us to the landing page for the Ukrainian mission. And then KrohnBreakthrough.org is our home website.
Guys, if you want to support us on our next mission, if you want to be a part of it, then go ahead and hit up those links. Join us at one of our next events. Get involved. And who knows, there might be someone listening here that says, yo, I have it in my heart to make a $100,000 donation. That's going to get you a seat on the jet. That's going to get you on the next trip. That's going to put you on the mission side by side so that we can do some of that mentorship. But frankly, we're going to do it doing the work of saving lives.